In 2008, I decided to leave the UK where I was born and move to my parents' country of birth, Barbados. My reasons for moving were varied, including being sick of the rat race in London, dissatisfaction with my work-life balance, and an increasing feeling that I just did not fit in. For me, being black and British seemed to have become a contradiction, and it made me more curious about my ancestry. I thought moving to Barbados, which I had been visiting as a child for years, would give me a chance to see where I really belonged. So I left the UK behind and went to start a new life in the sun. But starting again anywhere is not easy, and I soon realised that Barbados, as beautiful as it is not paradise. I found a job and tried to fit in, but it was obvious that even though my ancestry is Bajan, I am not. 33 years in the UK meant I was most definitely British, and I felt this most whilst living abroad. But one of the aspects of my new adventure which made it easier was the large amount of black British expats I met in Barbados who had also made the same decision as me. These were people who were born in Britain but had one or both parents from Barbados, and so like me had taken a gamble in starting a new life. Let me introduce you to 3 of them, and they'll tell you why they have left the UK behind.
So tell us what it was like, Ken, growing up in England.
What was it like? It was interesting, it was different. I grew up in a predominantly white neighbourhood, so that was very challenging in the 70s, as most black people growing up in England would know. It was usual struggles that we had in terms of work. You had to be twice as good as anybody else. Fought a lot of racism and stuff growing up as a teenager as well. I think that's standard. I don't think that's ever going to go away from certain countries. There's always going to be an underlying current of if you're not white from somewhere like that, there's always going to be some kind of angle which you detect sometimes. So that's the norm. But you get used to it.
But did it make you feel less British?
Yes, 100%. Even as a kid at, I think, 6, 7 years old, I remember asking my parents, what am I? I get called names at school. They're telling me to go back home, but I'm born here. So what's the answer? And I know I'm not alone in that. Especially back then in the 70s in particular. Very bad time.
Both my parents are from outside of the UK, so my mother's from Barbados and my dad's from Ghana. So growing up, you would hear stories about family in Barbados. Mum would talk about Barbados, and she would talk about, your grandparents and, just different things and nicknames for different members of family and so on. And likewise, even from the other side, from the Ghanaian side, my dad made a big effort to ensure that we understood our Ghanaian, our African heritage as well. So most weekends I would travel with him into London and visit family in Ghana, eat Ghanaian food, go to all sorts of different Ghanaian events, and so that was where I got my cultural identity and appreciation for cultures outside of the English culture that I've been, immersed in from the schooling that and the environment with which I lived. With all your friends are Caucasian as such, and you're doing very much all the same things that they do. You don't all necessarily get the opportunity to kind of experience the culture that you hear about at home.
Primary school, Church of England, and secondary school was also Church of England. There wasn't many black people there. There was probably about 6 of us at the time at secondary school. And primary school, it was me and one other dual heritage, I think we call it now, didn't they? Like mixed race boy that I used to grow up with. But generally, no, that was fine as well. I guess no problems as such.
You did not experience any racism at all?
As I've gotten old, I think my brothers may have done more so than me. I've got a little bit in regards to, chocolate face or big lips, and oh, your hair, why's your hair so squishy? But not so much in regards to get beaten up or anything like that. I've had a few, name calling and things like that. When I was about 6, 7, not so much when I was at secondary school. But that's really about it. Probably worse than name calling and stuff.
Did you feel like you fit in where you grew up?
No, not at the time, because it was grew up in a very sort of white area, and obviously when growing up, we always wanted to blend in and mix in with everybody else, and I didn't have anyone else as such to compare yourself with. So when I started to grow up a bit more and saw other people that looked a bit like me, then I could maybe relate to. So that was good in the sense of when more black people came into town. Then we could talk and share sort of experiences, but yeah. Well, then when you realise you're different or look different, then my parents did well in the sense of, it's alright to be different, it'll be alright. You'll meet other people the same as yourself. So, and I did eventually when I got to about 16, 17.
So did you feel more West Indian or English, or how did you feel you fit in when you grew up?
I guess growing up was probably sounds a bit more, probably more sided on the West Indian side of things, because that's where my parents were from and I spoke with, and sometimes all of it felt if I didn't necessarily always connect with my British side because of, I was white, so, and bringing up with those sort of differences and stuff. So I think growing up I'd probably identified more with myself with West Indian and then British second.
So when I did save up the money eventually, I booked myself a flight and I came to Barbados and met all this family that I'd never seen before, other than pictures that my mum would be pointing at people. Oh, that's Auntie Harry, that's Auntie Lola, that's Auntie Annette, and cousin Melinda, and so and so and so and so. And from that first time travelling to Barbados, I was like, oh, I'd love to live here. And I remember going to reconfirm why I really wanted to come and move to Barbados, and that's when I was just like, do you know what, let's just have a look and see if I can find a job. And sure enough, literally when I got back, I sent my CV out to a couple of companies that I just heard about whilst I was in Barbados, and one of them called me up. I had an interview the next week, and within a month later, I was moving to Barbados. I was like, okay, I guess I'm moving to Barbados. And yeah, I haven't looked back really.
So, when did I decide I had enough of the UK? It was a combination of events. About 4 or 5 years ago, there were quite a few deaths in my family. And I ended up coming over here about, I think it was 3 times within about a year. And each time I came, I wasn't a tourist or a visitor, I felt like I actually lived here anyway. I was staying by my mum and all the people, I knew everything, I just knew my way around. And it came at the same time where a lot of people of my age were feeling the same sort of thing in the UK. Why are we working so hard in our last maybe 10, 15 years of working life? In the cold, very competitive, dog eat dog world, Big Brother's watching you everywhere, you can't pull up to go to the shop without your car getting a clamp or a ticket. I was beginning to have enough of it, in addition to the weather. Added to that, my mum's here on her own, she's been here about 15, 20 years on her own. I've got so much family here as well. It suddenly just dawned on me, there was no point in me sticking around in the UK. I made sure I had job offers before I came here, which changed a lot. So I was able to come here, go straight into work, and live like a Bajan, and here I am. And I'm never regretted it.
I don't know, when I came to Barbados, I just felt quite comfortable. People looked like me. I didn't feel like I stood out. And so I guess it just felt quite natural to live here.
So do you feel you fit in more here or in England, or you still feel comfortable in both countries?
I feel comfortable in both countries, I must admit. It has been a learning curve. I'm not going to lie, it's been a learning curve in Barbados because of their approach, and obviously their culture is different. And so you can't expect to come here and find it to be the same way of doing things as you would in England. And some of the most basic of thought processes, just how they approach things can be very different. And whilst you know, you're coming from a fast-paced environment within the UK, within London, where it's kind of, you're striving to get things done and you're striving to move up the career level, you know, doing something. Over here it is a lot more chilled out, and if something doesn't happen today, maybe it will happen tomorrow, but there's no point in stressing about it. If it can't be done today, it just can't be done. and once you kind of let go of that urge to make things happen at a specific time, if it doesn't happen, you just have to kind of just accept that it's just not going to happen.
When did you decide to leave England and come to Barbados?
When I was about 33, 34. I just thought I wanted to try to live abroad and experience just living abroad, actually, just as a part of a new experience. And then I thought, oh, do you know what? It's more like the weather and lifestyle, so I thought, let me come and see what it's like over here. I got to a particular stage in life now, and I did my career and stuff, and I thought, well, let me see if I can live there, and I have lived there. And I moved when I was about 34, and I've really enjoyed it. Now I've been here about 4 years, so I really like it.
What do you enjoy about it?
The weather. And just the fact that, as simple as that, just the fact that you can get up and do a lot of things. And a different kind of freedom, I suppose. You have to adjust to life here, and certain things it's not as obviously fast-paced as England. There's certain things that, you know, can wind you up a little bit, like queuing or banks and all that type of thing. But generally, it's just more of the lifestyle that you can. It's just the lifestyle. In fact, if I got a bit miserable, I can get up and go to the beach and everything's okay.
And what would you say is where your future lies? Is it more here, or do you see yourself going back to England?
It's funny you should ask that, because it has come across my mind over the last, I guess, 6 months. I have thought about it, just from a career point of view more than anything else. If I want to grow and continue to grow, I may well need to move outside of the region just to gain new skills, because, you know, being a public relations and marketing advisor for a regional agency, you know, technology is moving so quickly, and because we don't have the same level of exposure as you would get in the UK, for example, or the US, you know, we could be running behind. Sometimes I think about that, but then I think, well, what more do I need out of my career? Maybe I should just relax myself and just go to the beach at the weekend and be happy. What's the real need to be striving more from a career point of view?
So do you feel you fit in more here than you did in Britain?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, just culturally, everything. I'd much rather be older here than in England in the cold, central heating on, the old people's stamps. No, thank you. And yes, I do feel much more comfortable. The main factor was quality of life and where am I going to spend useful energy in the last 20 years of my life. It made more sense for me to be here than in the UK, paying central heating bills.